Hi, stylists. Welcome to another episode of the Stylistpreneur Podcast. I am your host, Damali Fils, and today we have with us Dr. Afiya MbilliShaka. Dr. Afiya, she is a therapist, educator, research scientist, hair historian, and a hairstylist. She is the owner of Psychology Services, a private practice in Washington, D.C., which promotes balance and restoring order of her clients' lives. Dr. Afiya, come on in the room. How are you?
I am well. How are you doing?
I'm excited to have you. We were chit-chatting before we even got started, and I had the pleasure of seeing you present out in LA at a summit for Mazzani, and I loved your energy. So I was like, oh my gosh, she has to come on the podcast. So thank you so much for accepting the invite. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited to have this conversation with you. I'm glad that you felt my vibes and that my vibes
Right?
are good.
No, your vibes were so energetic. Like that's the way I would explain it. You seem super sweet, super like passionate about what you're doing. And I felt like what you're doing is so unique to the beauty business. So I just want to share. So please tell us all about your journey into the beauty business, how you are marrying psychology and hair. Like, please tell us all about it.
Sure. So I've always loved doing hair. I was my family's hairstylist and was responsible for my sister's hair, even though she's older than me. I always
Okay.
did her hair as a kid. And so at family cookouts, I would have these like mini pop-up hair salons, and I would have a lawn chair. My whole family would take turns, and I would do different
Nice.
hairstyles. And so when I went to college at the University of Pennsylvania, I started doing that there too. I just would do my classmates' hair. I think people came to me because I didn't charge money.
Okay.
I liked doing hair, and I got to hear all the gossip. I knew who was dating who, or what.
Right.
I knew everything that was happening amongst the Black students in particular. And so I also like psychology. Um,
Okay.
and so I remember talking to my aunt on the phone one day and telling her my dilemma, that I didn't know if I wanted to go on and study psychology after I
Mhm.
graduated or to go on and become a stylist. And so she was like, well, why can't you do both? Now,
Right.
I don't think she was saying do them at the same time, but that's the way I interpreted it and thought, I could be a psychologist that does hair, and they go together.
Right.
So I ended up going to graduate school at Howard University to study Black mental health. And
Okay.
then and I became a clinical psychologist. Then I got licensed as a psychologist and worked in university counseling centers. Then I became a professor. And then I
Okay.
went to hair school.
Oh,
And so
wow. Okay.
kind of after all of that, and even having my own private practice, that I then was going between like therapy couches and the shampoo bowl.
Wow.
And basically all that interaction in the salon space and with my own therapy clients, I was able to do research on the topic,
Mm-hmm.
started a research lab, and then created a certification process where I teach stylists and barbers how to do mental health first aid. So that's
Wow.
psychotherapy. So using hair as an entry point into mental health. And so working with that unique relationship that us stylists
Right.
have with our clients.
Well, shout out to your auntie, okay, for knowing how to like be like, marry this and this. And I also feel like, would you say that that gives you leverage or that sets you apart as far as like having those clients, being able to not only service them with their hair, but also like with their mental health?
Yeah, I think it's unique. I think all stylists are doing this,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm probably one of the few people who have a PhD in psychology
Exactly.
and license that's doing it. So yeah, that's my unique entry point for
I
sure.
love that. Now, I know you said you have a certification. Can you tell us about if we wanted to get a certification, how, when, where? Give us all the details.
Okay, so I have a certification process that is virtual right now, once
Okay.
a month, and it's on my website, psychohairapy.org, each time that it is. Sometimes it's on weekends, sometimes weekdays. I know stylist schedules vary. And
Mm-hmm.
so it is an 8-hour process. So it's usually
Okay.
2 days of 4 hours, where it's broken up into three parts. The first part is on the history of our hair. I do
Mm-hmm.
identify as a hair historian. So I go through
Okay.
thousands and thousands of years of hair history.
Wow.
And then the next part, module 2, is focused on the signs and symptoms of mental illness in communities of color. So, sort of specializing in what depression or anxiety can look like in Black women for
Mhm.
example. And then the last part is the psychotherapy micro counseling skills. So this includes how to assess someone for harm, like if someone's having
Mm.
suicidal thoughts or self-injury, how to do active listening. So sometimes stylists just want to give advice,
Right.
step away from that to actually how do you listen and make sure that they know you heard what they were saying.
Exactly.
And then talk about how to actually refer a client to therapy. So I go into all the differences between a psychiatrist, a social worker, a psychologist, a licensed professional counselor, and how to find therapists for your clients.
And you know what that makes me think of? I feel like I've seen a trending video where she holds up two cards and she's like, "Do you want therapy today or do you just want your hair done?" It's like it's gonna be a little extra for the therapy, but you have it all built in.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so I love that. So when it comes to like, the facts of taking care of yourself, we always see like if you want to have a better day, get your hair done. Get your hair done. Can you talk about the role that self-care plays with our clients, them feeling better, them working on their mental health? Like what role does that play?
Yes, I think a lot of us are burned out. I'm including
Yeah.
myself in that conversation. And when you actually prioritize your self-care, that it has so many impacts on the rest of your day and how you relate to other
Mm,
people. I'm a strong believer in a morning routine, whether
mm,
it's exercising, meditating, journaling, but also hair care, that's a
right.
good time to be able to invest in yourself, and whether you play certain music or listen to certain
Mm,
podcasts or have candles going or essential oils, but creating a ritual around hair.
mm-hmm,
Rituals we can define as how you prepare your mind, body, and spirit to receive a blessing. And I think hair is a big part of that in terms of our self-care. We can actually invest in the top. There's sort of a
mm-hmm.
top-down effect that happens for all of us.
No, I would agree with that. It's so funny. I was at the American Beauty Show this weekend. So I had the hair, the makeup, the outfit, and everything. And so I come home and I take it all off. And my husband's just like, "Are you tired now? Because now you seem tired. Before you had plenty of energy." He said, "Did you take it all off?" So it definitely makes a difference with how you feel. But yeah, once I took the makeup and the hair off, I was just like, okay, I can be a couch bomb now.
Yes. I'm trying to invest in this concept of rotting. I've seen it on Instagram, but just
Right?
like vegging out and being on the couch, I think is very important too.
It's important. You could just literally just take it all off and just relax. And that's exactly what I did after 3 days of being at a hair show, okay?
Woo! Yeah.
Right? So let's talk about the misconceptions that people have around mental health and, being able to take care of yourself. Because I think people don't realize like it definitely takes a toll. It makes a difference in your how you are.
Mhm. Yeah, it's interesting. There are a lot of people who are studying shame, like Brene Brown is one of the famous shame researchers, but she's discovered when people don't talk about their emotions, that
Hmm.
it gets worse, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
we think that by avoiding, oh, I'm not going to focus on the negative, I'm not going to talk about that, it's complaining. But when you don't talk about it, it actually amplifies. But if you do process it and discuss it with other people, it lessens. And
Hmm.
so I think that a lot of us, especially Black women, strong Black women, think like if I don't focus on it, nothing, I'll get
Right.
better. But I think it's kind of the opposite with mental health. When you focus on it, understand it, unpack it, process it, feel it, then
Hmm.
that's when you get better.
Right. Okay. I love that. So when it comes to our hairstylists and our professionals, like you said, we're already doing it. You just have a PhD in it, right? So for a hairstylist that wants to be a little bit more intentional, where she's saying, you know what, I do have these clients that are stressed out. I do have these clients that clearly only come in the salon every so often. How can they incorporate this? I mean, get the certification for sure. Get first off, get the certification. But what are some ways that they can slowly start to incorporate, teaching their clients and, being slightly a therapist for their clients?
Yeah, I think it's important for stylists to be emotionally intelligent, just
Mm,
knowing what the basic emotions are and what they signal. So, for
okay.
example, if a client is presenting as sad, sort of looking down, slumping over, sadness is oftentimes associated with loss. And so when
Mm-hmm.
someone is experiencing loss, whether it's a lot like grief or a job that's lost, a relationship has ended, whatever the loss of money,
Mm-hmm.
that we need comforting and soothing. And so it's important to understand that that emotion signals that that person needs comforting and soothing. Or let's say someone's really angry, that
Right.
means that person has had a expectation that wasn't met. Maybe they feel disrespected. And so what do they need in that moment? Well, they need
Mm-hmm.
new boundaries or even a sense of protection. We don't
Wow.
think that when
Mm-hmm.
someone's angry, they need to be more protected, but that's actually what it signals. Or
Okay.
let's say that someone is really afraid or anxious, worried. That means that they don't feel safe. Something in
Mm-hmm.
their life, whether emotionally safe, financially safe, physically safe. And so what can you do is to create a safety plan. What would make
Mm-hmm.
that person feel safer in that space or otherwise? So I like to be in the realm of trauma-informed hair care, meaning that
Okay.
understanding what someone has gone through before getting in that chair and how are you either affirming them or perpetuating whatever past trauma that they've had. And so to be sensitive of literally how they move their body, how they're breathing
Okay.
air, all of that. Okay, the certification, but this
Right.
is just
Definitely get the
a little
certification because we can't tell them
intro.
too much. Now, how can we do this in a way of not overstepping? How can we do this in a way of, do we slowly get to know the client and then start incorporating these things? Do we do it to clients that we feel like are open to it? Like, how does that work? Or is it just incorporated in the business?
Okay, great question. It's interesting because a lot of the stylists who've gotten certified in psychotherapy now offer um, basically a menu. Do you want a silent service or a talk
Mm,
service or medium? Like they act just like a Uber driver or something,
right.
that now they allow their clients to choose how much conversation they want.
Okay.
But you're bringing up a really important question about rapport. Rapport is basically creating a positive relationship with your client. So
Okay.
rapport is like that energy exchange, sort of paying attention to body language. About 70% of our communication is body language.
Mm-hmm.
And just so even establishing that connection, getting consent, that's a big piece. Even the salons that I worked at, the owners would always, one person in particular, I'm thinking of a salon I worked at, she would always tell us to ask before we even touch their hair. Like, can I touch
Mm,
your hair? And so I think
right.
that that's even a big part, not only of touch, but would you mind if we spoke a little bit more about that? And so I think during that consultation phase,
Mm-hmm.
the consultation varies so much between stylists. Some people are like, okay, let me see the picture and that's it, versus what are your
Right.
goals with your hair? And even having that initial consultation is a good way to assess what the client's needs are, but even their conversational needs,
Right.
emotional needs in terms of how are you feeling today? How would
Mm-hmm.
you like to feel by the time you leave? So even getting that assessment, and do you need any support today around something in addition
Gotcha.
to your hair? So that first consultation point is important.
Okay. And I can definitely speak to that because I can think of two examples right off the top of my head. I had one client in a chair one day and she literally asked me, "Do I need to entertain you today?" And exactly, I was like, uh, older lady, yeah, older lady. And I was just like, well, no, you don't, but okay. And so luckily I didn't take offense to that. And I just realized, you know what, she just does not want to talk today. So being able to learn these practices and getting that certification is definitely important. And I had one lady one day who just told me, I don't want to talk today. And then the next time she came in, she was like a chatty Kathy. And I was just like, girl, you didn't want to talk last time. So I definitely would promote it because it's needed. Because you
Mhm,
never know what the clients are going through. You never know how they're feeling. So incorporate the cards. Do you want
mhm.
to talk or don't you? You know, so I love that. But moving forward, what can you say as hairstylists and influencers? How can we put that awareness out there to focus on the mental health or to seek the help that these clients may be needing?
Mhm. I think one of the best ways is in modeling the behavior. I think that
Mm,
it's okay for us to introduce how we're feeling, or if we're struggling with something, to have a level of vulnerability.
okay.
Actually can help someone feel more connected. And again, it's modeling. Even a part of psychotherapy, the initial piece is to do trainings with influencers. That was even a big
Okay.
part. sometimes people don't go get their hair done, but they'll watch a YouTube video tutorial on something with their hair, but to make sure that there's a level of conversation, again, just about feelings, because that's a part that oftentimes gets blocked.
Mm-hmm.
A thing that I do, and even my social media content and even my hair care work, is that I'll model and say, like, I'm having a really strong reaction to blank or blank.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll own that I'm in a certain emotional,
Right.
and so that kind of invites other people to do the same.
Okay. That makes me think of one class I took in college. I took a psychology class, and it was like, when you're letting somebody know how you feel, when you do this, I feel this. So I do it to my husband all the time. He's like, I remember that class you took. He's like, you're using that on me. I was like, I sure am, because I want you to know how I feel.
Yes, that's called clean talk. That's called clean
Right?
talk, to use a fact, something specific that someone said or did, and to say your emotional reaction to it. Very good.
Right.
That's
You're gonna make
excellent
me go back to school
technique.
and definitely get the certification.
Come on, Dr. Damali. I need you to get up there with
Listen.
me.
Well, oh my goodness, we're gonna put it out there in the universe.
Yeah.
Right. So when it comes to, like, self-care and just being mindful of like burnout, being able to maintain who you are, what would some tips be for that? Because I know a lot, like you already mentioned it, people are getting burned out. It's a lot to deal with yourself. It's a lot to deal with the clients, what they have going on. So what are some things that we can do and be mindful of?
Okay. Well, I do like to lean on the American College of Medicine that says the most basic things that you need to do are the following. Okay.
Mm,
That everybody needs to drink at least minimum 64 ounces of water a day. Like, that is
right?
you have to be hydrated. There's actually a lot of research coming out that people who are stressed or highly depressed are dehydrated. And you wouldn't think
Mm,
that that's the cause, but like, the body
right?
literally cannot function. There's not enough stuff in your brain getting flushed
Right.
out and
You need some
everything.
fuel.
Yes, exactly. And that's the next thing in terms of eating at least 4 or 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. Like, at the
Hmm.
most basic, your body needs nutrients. Um, Sleeping, to sleep at least 7 to 9 hours a night. And there was even a study that came out a couple months ago, and I've seen it on social media, saying that women actually need more rest than men,
Hmm.
even up to like 10 hours. And then also when they have their period, even more.
Right.
Like, I've heard, I'm like, 10 hours, that's some
Like, who's
significant.
getting that?
And then the American College of Medicine says you need to exercise at least for 30 minutes, 5 days a week.
Hmm.
Like, you have to have some cardiovascular health, strength training, something to keep you going. And it's
Hmm.
all of that not only connects to our mental health because it lowers our stress levels because
Hmm.
the body's not put in a position of strain, but also it helps with hair health too.
Hmm.
You can tell that if someone is drinking enough water, eating enough fruits and vegetables, resting, exercising, based on how their hair is looking too. So to even model that
Right.
as well, our hair will let you know if you're not taking care of your mental or physical health.
Exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy because those sounds like basic things, right? It's literally the basic things. But if you aren't doing those basic things, how can you do everything else, right?
Exactly.
Literally.
Are you doing them?
I am. So you know what? I actually did a fitness show a few years back. So I had to do all those things. And so I went to the doctor recently and I was telling her, like, I'm not feeling like I was before. And she's like, do you need to do another fitness show? Because you were taking your vitamins, you were drinking your water, eating your meals. So yeah, I've learned the importance, but do I always do it? Not
How do
always.
you do that? I struggle with consistency because
That's
I'm like,
why I did it, to help with the consistency.
so if I record myself, then I'll be more accountable and consistent. Is that what I should do?
Honestly, the podcast is a matter of me making sure I'm consistent. I need a guest every week. I need a podcast every week because if not, I'm in trouble with myself.
Okay, okay.
So
So that
finding something to do that will make you do it consistently, whatever it is. Washing
okay.
your face every morning, add it to your routine. It definitely helps.
Okay. See.
Right? Listen, we're about to get on a whole nother topic here. But just to bring it back in, when we're talking about self-expression and wanting to feel empowered, wanting to feel like your best self, what are some things that are important, as far as how you look, how you dress? Like when we're talking about that self-expression, how does that play a role in being, your empowerment?
I like that question. I recently read a book called Big Dress Energy, and it's basically
Mm,
on the psychology of fashion.
Okay.
But you are supposed to dress and put makeup on, do your hair and jewelry, and the person you want to be. And
Mm.
that this is a way to motivate yourself to reach certain goals, to
Mhm.
align with that image you have of yourself in
Right.
your, that it's easier if you look the part, to be able to take the actions to do it. So I
Mhm.
think that in our hair, especially, it's a big piece of our identity.
Mhm.
Our identity we can define as this internalized and evolving story of self. So that's how I identify, like that's how I
Mhm.
define identity, our internalized and evolving story of self. And so I think that um, each hairstyle or makeup or outfit can help you to write this story of who you are and who you want to
Mhm.
be. And be open to feedback too.
Right.
And again, evolving of what that means, because at different points in my life, I know I wanted to be different people. Like as a teenager, I wanted to
Mhm.
be a certain way. Maybe I wanted to be like Aaliyah. I feel like she was very
Right.
when I was a teenager, versus in my 20s wanting to be more like a scholar and thinking about, well, what does a scholar look like? And
Right.
then negotiating those parts and trying on different versions of yourself is very healthy and normal too.
Mhm. Oh, wow. I love that. That sounds like an amazing book. I can definitely speak to that because once I put on my face and an outfit, I'm unstoppable. I am literally unstoppable. There's nothing you can say to me. I can do anything, be anything. So I agree with that. But speaking of books, I think somebody else has a book out there. Can we talk about it?
Yeah, I should have had it behind me or something.
We will post
Yes.
it. I will post it on everything that I have. Let's talk about your new book.
Yes, so my new book came out on March 12th, 2024, and it's called Laid to the Side. And
Oh,
so this book is a combination or an anthology of hair stories. And we
okay.
wanted to specifically focus on hair stories for Black girls in school. And so
Okay.
to think about how we learned about ourselves and learned about our hair in this educational environment. So it has 12 chapters, all written by different women giving their narratives. Some are cosmetologists, some are
Mhm.
psychologists, some are teachers, some are broadcast journalists, some are urban planners. So this conglomerate of Black women sharing
Mhm.
how they had to figure out who they were through their
Wow.
hair while being in school. And so some of the stories will make you laugh, some will make you cry. Like it's a very emotional book that's really helpful, especially if you want to support Black girls and
Okay.
guidance and support for what they're going through right now.
Okay, I love that. Now, where can we get the book?
Okay, you can get it on Amazon. So if you write in Laid to the Side book on
Okay.
Amazon, it will come right to it. Or we have a website, laidtotheside.com, if you want to get an e-copy of it right away to
Okay.
your phone or computer.
Okay, awesome. And are you still on tour?
Yes, I
Okay.
am.
Where can we find you?
So I am trying to create this salon tour,
Okay.
bookstore tour. And so I think next stop is Philadelphia,
Okay.
um, Cincinnati, and I think then after that, LA. I'm going through
Okay.
my
Are we slipping Chicago in there anywhere?
I do need to get Chicago in
Right.
there. I do. Okay, I need to add.
At
Okay.
Chicago. I'll be there if you come into Chicago.
What part should I go to? What salon should I go to? I'll
Okay.
ask. Yes.
Oh, yes. Yes. We'll get into it. I can send you some recommendations, of
Thank
course.
you.
Yes.
I welcome that.
Awesome. Okay, so when we're thinking into the future and we're thinking of mental health and the beauty industry, where do you see that gap coming together and what part would you like to play in bridging that gap?
I love that question. It's a complicated yet easy answer.
Okay.
I think that it needs to be in school, in cosmetology schools, to actually have a
Mhm.
course on mental health. I think that's like one of my ultimate dreams, to be able to
Oh,
teach that. Just like we learn all the other information about hygiene and this and that, but to
right?
into the emotional and psychological aspects of this work. When we study our ancestors, this was core to the work. That
Mm,
when someone was becoming a stylist, they actually had to be initiated sometimes into the status of priesthood because of how
wow.
sacred the head was.
Mm-hmm.
So even looking at places like ancient Egypt, you had to actually be a priest to touch someone's head and do their
Mm.
hair. And there's a very popular African proverb: when your sister is your hairdresser, you need no mirror. I'll say it again.
I
Sister
love
is
that.
your hairdresser, you need no mirror. And so really speaking about relationships and rapport and emotional connection as being core to this work, there's so much emotional labor
Mm-hmm.
hair care professionals must engage in, but don't necessarily have the training. I know I went to
Right.
school for a decade to
Yeah.
become a psychologist.
Right.
And so to be able to transfer some of that information and becoming a therapist and a psychologist to put into the hair world, I think that that would be make a big difference because people are way more likely to get their hair done than to see a
Mm-hmm.
therapist. And so to be able to lean into that existing rapport and connection
Mm-hmm.
and transformation that happens with hair.
I love that. I can totally see that in schools, and I can see you making that happen.
Okay, thank
Right? I can
you.
see
I love
it.
teaching. I love teaching. I had been a college professor for over a decade. And so there's something magical that happens during
Mm-hmm.
like that teaching process where it's transformative for me, even as a
Right.
professor or teacher, but students, I love to see where people can take the information.
Yes, and I think that's definitely needed before you get out into the field, because I've met so many people that have gotten out of the field because they couldn't deal with the clients, and because meaning
Mm.
they didn't know how to deal with the clients. Had they had that education, that training, maybe they still be in there. They'd be better off dealing with the clients. So yeah, you're on to something.
Yeah.
Your next chapter.
Yes.
Right. Right. So there is one question that I ask every guest, and I have to ask you is what's your superpower as an entrepreneur in the beauty industry?
That's a good question. I'm still discovering it,
Okay.
but because I do identify as an accidental entrepreneur. I don't think this
Okay.
thing but
Right.
I would say I'm an active listener. I would say that.
Okay.
I think I really aim to not only pay attention to people's words, but their feelings.
Okay.
I think that that helps me to be present and caring
Mm-hmm.
with people that I do business with, whether it's a hair client, a therapy client, or Mazzani, in
Right.
terms of really being able to pay attention to what's happening in the space so that
Mm-hmm.
I can best show up and fulfill needs.
Okay, I love that. I feel like your clients are never going to let you go. Like anyone that's dealing with you, they're just like, I also know I'm going to look beautiful and I'm going to get a session into this, right? Like she can never get rid of me.
I do have a few saying wherever I move to or wherever
Right?
I come following. So that maybe that is a thing, but not everybody, right? So
Right.
there's
So
variation.
yeah. No, I absolutely love that. Well, Dr. Afiya, thank you so much for coming on the show today. You have been amazing. I knew you were going to be amazing. That's why I made sure to ask you to come on the show. But please let us know where we can follow you, where we can stay in contact, because we're going to stay in contact.
Oh, okay. So one way you can find me is through Instagram. You can follow me at dr_AFIYA at Dr. Afiya,
Okay.
or at PsychoHairapy, or go to my website, psychoharapy.org, if you want to stay up to date with the book, laid to the
Yes.
side.com. So all of those, I'm
Right.
reachable. I'm
They will
reachable.
be in the link. They will be everywhere. So we are going to follow you. We're going to buy the book and get certified. Okay. All of the above. Well, thank you so much. I won't hold you because you sound busy. You sound like a busy lady. Okay. So please enjoy your day and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Have a good one.